Hey, good morning, Lighthouse people. Can you believe we are at the end of February already and we're just about to jump into March? It's crazy. And it's crazy, at least in my mind, to think that we are finished with the book of Jeremiah. We've been reading a chapter a day through the book of Jeremiah for January and February. And what a long book that was, but what a fantastic time, I know, that I've had in the Word, being reminded about very basic principles and learning more about who God is, about his view of sin, about the importance of faithfulness, but also the redemptive work that God is doing in the world. But as we move into March, we move from the book of Jeremiah to the Gospel of John. For the month of March, we're going to be reading a chapter a day through John's Gospel. And because there's only 21 chapters in the Gospel of John, and there's more than that in days in March, it'll give us an opportunity, just like with the other books and months that we've done, where there'll be time for catch up at the end. So if you get started late or if you lag behind, don't worry. There's plenty of time to get the Gospel of John read in the month of March, and I'm excited for us. I'm excited for us to read this gospel together. This book was written, John's account was written approximately 80 to 90 AD, shortly before he would have received the revelation from God when he was on the island of Patmos. And this is John's account of Jesus Christ. It's a little bit unique from the other books that are called Gospels. You know, we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. John is the most unique of the four. Matthew points to Jesus. It's written for the Jews, and it points to Jesus as the Messiah King. The Gospel of Mark was written most likely to non-Jews, just because of the way the book's structured and the contents of it. It would have been focused on a non-Jewish audience. And Mark writes of Jesus, the suffering servant. And then in Luke's Gospel, which we're going to start preaching through in services here shortly after Easter, Luke writes to present Jesus as the Son of Man, and he emphasizes the humanity of Jesus. But here in John's Gospel, we have Jesus being presented as the Son of God. In a sense, because of that, it is looked at as the most significantly theological gospel. Not that the other gospels weren't theological in orientation, but John's emphasis is to point to Jesus as the Son of God. One writer, a man named Hebert, he says that the Gospel of John possesses an independence of character and contents which have caused it to be called the unique within the unique. It's a fascinating book, and the purpose for which John writes his gospel, just from reading it, it appears to be both evangelistic and apologetic. The theme verse, which is found in chapter 20, verse 31, says this: "These have been written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name." It's an apologetic. It's making a defense that Jesus, of the deity of Jesus Christ, that he is the Son of God. But also, which is true of any apologetic, is that its goal is evangelistic, that they would not just have an intellectual understanding or belief intellectually that Jesus is the Son of God, but they would come to know Jesus, in that their belief would be such that they will have life in his name. That is, that they will be saved. And so John is writing to convince people that Jesus truly is the Son of God, but to convince them that he is the Son of God so that they will be saved. That's the purpose and point of John's Gospel, and he accomplishes that through several themes. The main theme that seems to run throughout, that we can find throughout throughout John's Gospel, is the contrast of light and darkness. Jesus is presented as the light that comes into the darkness of humanity, and it makes a very striking contrast and highlights the next theme, the other theme that runs through the book, and that is belief and unbelief. The word believe or belief is mentioned approximately 100 times in John's gospel. And that ultimately is presented in this gospel. Belief and unbelief or light and darkness is defined with whether you believe in Jesus as the Son of God or you don't believe. If you believe that Jesus is the Son of God, then you are in the light. If you reject Jesus as the Son of God and his purposes and what he came to earth and what he did on earth, in his sinless life and his death on the cross, then the Bible looks at you as in darkness. So light and darkness, belief and unbelief are two significant themes as John develops his apologetic about Jesus so people will be saved. And the features of his gospel is a very significant use of signs and related discourses. John chapter 2, it's a very well-known passage. It's his first miracle. It's a miracle he performed at the wedding, and where he changed water into wine. And this is, in wrapping up the story of that miracle, this is what John records. Chapter 2, verse 11. This beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him. The signs were designed to show the glory of who Jesus was. They were signs to point to that Jesus was the Son of God. And then at the end of the gospel, in John chapter 20, verse 30, right before the theme verse of the book, it says, "Therefore many other signs Jesus also performed in the presence of the disciples." John takes and he puts together signs pointing to who Jesus is. And then there's related discourses teaching about what those signs mean. But also, John records 7 statements that Jesus makes that begin with or contain "I am." And it's Jesus pointing to his deity by saying "I am," such as "I am the light of the world," "I am the resurrection and the life," amongst others. And those "I am" statements are very, they make very clear allusion to the Old Testament in the book of Exodus. Remember when Moses said to God, who am I going to say sent me? And God says, tell him, "I am that I am." That's who I send you. The great I am. It's a name of God. And so Jesus, by saying "I am," he is making a claim to deity. And John is writing about those "I am" statements, again, so that people would believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and in believing have life, have salvation in his name. In conclusion, a man named Ryken has written a Bible handbook, and he quotes, he has this in his writing on the summary on the Gospel of John. He says, "The life of Jesus is told in narratives which are both convincingly factual and artistically significant. Single events possess significance in their own right, leaving pictures printed lastingly on the mind's eye. We see Jesus silhouetted against a world of formalized religion, hypocrisy, envy, evil, and suffering. It is a world of death, of spiritual death and bodily death. To this world he would bring life. His only gospel is life, and life put into words of poetry. His life is framed by light, melting into the divine at either end. His birth is divine, he rises from the dead, and at choice moments he is vividly superhuman, as when the heavens open and God speaks at his baptism and at his transfiguration." The Gospel of John is going to be an amazing study, and I'm looking forward to us going through it together, a chapter a day, and I really hope that you will join us as we dive into God's Word one day at a time, a chapter at a time.